We talked about trigger, and we basically created a trigger and we wrote the entire code inside the trigger. Okay, this time what we're gonna do today, we will learn how I can create a class. Okay, write all the logics in the class. Okay, so I will write all my logics in the class, and then I will call the class in the trigger. Got it? So if you have written your logic or method in the class, the way we were calling a class in the Visualforce page, now we'll learn how to call a class in the trigger. Okay, so that is one thing that we are going to do. So let's go to our Salesforce and create a class, and we are going to do this using a simple small example. And the example that I'm going to discuss is, let's say I have a requirement okay. Let's say this is what my requirement is. On a given day, an individual user cannot create opportunities worth 1 million. So let's say this is the policy of the company, that on a single day, one individual cannot have opportunities created worth more than 1 million. Okay, so this is a pretty simple kind of a requirement which a company can have. Or on a given day you cannot take orders more than a certain amount, which is pretty logical, right? Now this is something where this 1 million can be for one record, it can be for multiple records. Okay, so even if he creates 20 records and he does not exceed 1 million in total, he should be allowed to create opportunities. If he has exceeded 1 million as a total or the sum of all the opportunities that he has created on a certain day, then he should not be allowed to create it further. It's more like the debit card that you use from the ATM machine. There's a certain amount of money that you can withdraw, no matter how many transactions you are doing, but there's a cap on the total amount that can be withdrawn on a certain day, right? So that is the thing. So on a given day, an individual cannot create opportunities worth 1 million. So that is the thing. All right. So let's do this. Firstly, we'll create a class for this, right? So we'll go to Apex, develop Apex classes. And then I will create a trigger. So let me write my logic and everything and the entire method in the class. So same way, go ahead and create a class, call it anything, of trig class. Okay. Now in this class we have to define a method which will be called on the trigger. So you define a method, public static void, method name can be object. So that's the name of the method. Okay, and I am passing a parameter on this method, call it OPS. Okay, so this parameter is being passed for the trigger.new. Okay, this is something which I will call for the trigger.new, the records which are being entered. So I'll talk about it a little later, just let the parameter be there. So whenever this, when you put a parameter with a method now, what you actually have to do, whenever you want that method to be executed, that parameter value needs to be supplied. Got it? So whenever this method is called for execution, we have to supply the value for this parameter. That is what the concept of a parameter is. Okay. So now to supply the value to ops, I will use trigger.new. Simple logic. So this ops is going to be the trigger.new. So that is it, which I will call there. Now I have for opportunity O select amount from opportunity where created by equals user info dot get user ID and created date equals today. Right. O dot amount, sorry, okay. And then close this. For opportunity O2 and OPS total amount equals total amount plus O2 dot amount. If total amount greater than you have now it's fine. Still there is a problem. For loop has started. Okay, so for loop starts here, then it closes here. Okay, then one more bracket. Okay. No, correct. So basically what we are doing, we have created a method, okay, which method will do the entire stuff. So in this method I am also passing a parameter. So whenever I want to execute this method, as I told you, a parameter is what you have to supply the value for whenever you try to execute the method. So this object method, wherever it's going to get executed, this will be asked, right? And for our trigger, it's going to be the trigger.new. So once I call it in the opportunity trigger, I will show you how I'm supplying the value for this parameter. Okay. Now, then I have just defined a variable total amount, which is a decimal. Now total amount is going to be the sum of all the records which have been created by that user. So my logic is what? That one particular user cannot create opportunities more than 1 million in a day, right? So sum of all the opportunities which are created by a particular user in a day cannot be more than 1 million, right? So for that, what we are doing, we have just defined this thing. There are two for loops which I am talking about here. First is the for loop which will go, so when we are talking about multiple records, first of all it should go and check all the existing records in the database, right? That which all existing records have been created and what is the sum of them, and then it should also check the one which is being created. Okay, so first for loop actually goes and checks in the database for all the opportunities which have been created by the current user and where the created date is today's date. So all the records which have been created today and where the user is the current user. Alright, this first for loop is for checking all the existing records. Okay, so whatever is in the system which has been created today and which has been created by the current user. Okay, so it will take wherever the created by is the current user and wherever the created date is today's date. So all those records will be calculated. So this will do a sum of all those records. Now the second part is basically going and checking for the record which is being created. So as I told you, OPS is going to be the trigger.new in this case. Okay. So this O2 will check in the new record which is getting created and it will see. So let's say after summing up all the existing records, it comes to 800,000. Okay. So if it comes to 800,000, then it should go and add the current record and see if, doing a sum of all the existing records plus the current record makes it 1 million or not. So if that exceeds 1 million, then it should throw error. You have reached your daily limit. Got that thing? So this is the simple logic here, what we have used. Now my method is here. I just have to go and call this as a trigger on the opportunity trigger. So how will I call it on the trigger? It's pretty simple. If you have defined your method in the class, okay, you just have to go and write this trigger, whatever name, T1 on opportunity event, let's say before insert, before update. Now since all the logic has been written there, I don't need to write anything in the trigger itself. I just have to write the class name dot method name. So I'll just call the class name dot method name, and this will be the parameter. So in this case, it's going to be what is my class name? This. What is my method name? Dot this. And what is the parameter that I'm going to supply? Trigger dot new. Okay, so instead of OPS, it will be trigger dot new. So OPS becomes the trigger dot new supplies the value to OPS. That's it. This is a list of opportunity which has been supplied. So this is what you just have to go and do on the opportunity trigger. Rest all the logics are written inside this method itself. So this method can actually deliver this. There's another thing I have to do. I have to set it to 0. Otherwise it will throw it out. Yeah. So start off the code, I should make it 0. Alright. So that is how it is. Now let me go and click on setup, customize opportunity trigger, right? So this is an active trigger. Let me just make the first trigger, the last session's trigger, inactive. I'm just making it inactive, and I'll make the today's trigger active. And you can have multiple triggers active on an object, that's not a problem. I just wanted to remove that. So you can just have any name for the trigger, let's say T2, and you say before insert, and you say before update, and then you call it. So I have to call that class name dot method name. That's it. The trigger is ready. So this method is being called from that class. Parameter has been supplied. Value for that. Now just go ahead and click on opportunity and start creating opportunities. Okay. Click on new. Put an amount 200. So first record that I'm creating is 200,000. No error, gets saved. Second record I create 400,000. 200 plus 400,000, 600,000. So still not 1 million. So no error. Now I try to create one more, which is 500,000. Click on save. That is where the error is. So 200 plus 400, 600,000 is already there. The moment I try to add 500,000 more to that, it exceeds 1 million, right? So that is where it throws an error. It says you have reached your daily limit. Clear on this? Questions, doubts? Please let me know if we have any questions on this.
Hi Jit, can you please explain me about this parameter thing once again?
So parameter is basically defined with a method. Okay, so if you define a parameter for a method, while you try to execute that method, while you try to call that method, then you have to supply some value for the parameter. Got it?
Okay.
Remember last time we did an example on that search thing, and we defined a parameter string s. So there the value was being supplied by the end user.
Yeah.
It was taking the value from the input box. Here again we have to supply some value, right? So parameter is basically which you define so that the end user can supply some value to that. Okay, and this method will get executed. So that parameter is used somewhere in that method. So here if you see OPS is being used here. Alright. So to this what we do is we supply trigger.new. Trigger.new means the record which is getting created. Alright. Otherwise, if you guys see, is it not the code which I was writing inside the trigger? This is the actual code which was being written inside the trigger, right? If you do not do this, this is what we write for opportunity O2. Inside the trigger, what we would have written? We would have written it in this way: opportunity O2 trigger.new. Right? This is how we were writing it.
Yeah.
That is the thing. So instead of that, because this class does not know what is a trigger.new, so what I have done, I have just defined that as a parameter, and I just go ahead and call this parameter. I just go and supply the value for this parameter as trigger.new.
Okay.
Got it?
Yeah, got it. Yeah.
So that is how it goes.
So here, there is total amount equal to total amount plus O point amount. Like, can you explain this logic here? It's kind of formula for this process.
Total amount is a variable again. It's 0. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then it goes and calculates it. Initially it's 0. Then it finds.
Yeah.
So this for loop actually goes and finds, is there any opportunity which this person has created? It adds that amount to the total amount.
Okay.
So first record when you create, which is 100,000, that gets added. Then there is another record, it finds, it adds that thing. Okay. So that loop will run and it will keep on adding those values to this total amount. Total amount keeps on increasing. Okay.
Okay.
So this that is what we are doing here. That's it.
Yeah, got it.
Is a record which
Thank you.
where this created by is the current user and created date is current today's date. Okay,
Yeah.
so this loop is actually summing up the value of all those records into this total amount variable, right?
Yeah, yeah, got it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So any other questions that anyone else has at this point of time? No? Okay. So
Jeet, hi, this is Ankit. I have a question. Jeet, in the second line, public static void, what does it signify? It's void loop?
Yeah, it's a void method. It does not return anything. So you do not see a return line. Get method and page reference method, we have to return something, right? A void method does not ask for returning anything. That is where you can perform some action and you do not have to return anything. Again, go back to that example, search example. So void method did not return anything, right? So you don't have to return anything on a void method.
Okay. and the end method that you written for opportunity or select amount opportunity will create by ID and all. So this is a syntax that we have to learn.
This part is syntax. So if you say user info dot get user ID, it will take the user ID of the current user. Today, it's again something universal. So today by default means today's date. It will take. So created date equals today. All the records where the created date is today's date, and created by ID is the field name. Okay, and there I say that current user's ID. Got it? Then it will only go and check the opportunities where the created by ID is this user's ID. Okay. User info dot get user ID will get the ID of this user, the person who is logged in currently. So that is what I want to do, right?
So this is going to be specific for this particular ID, or I mean,
any user who is logged in. There's going to be any user who is logged in.
Okay. Okay.
Fine. So here I have not defined anywhere. Have I defined Suresh or something?
Yeah, you have.
So it is for any user who is logged in. That is what we want to do, right? We don't want to restrict it for Suresh. We do not have a problem with this guy. We have a problem that a person who is creating in that particular day, on a given day, he should not have created opportunities more than 1 million, worth 1 million or something like that, right? So the logged in user will be considered. Alright? So whoever is the logged in user here.
Can we make it specific for particular IDs?
But why would you want to do that? You can make it specific to
a particular user would mean.
Sorry.
Yeah. So the particular user would mean say there's an organization which has got different departments or hierarchy level. So accordingly, they separate. Then the manager comes in, then the senior manager.
We can do that. We can do that.
That we have to go back to the approval. I mean, the role process. We can do it over here only.
I'm not able to hear you very clear. I think your voice is breaking a lot.
Is it better now?
Now it's better. Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, so we can do that particular thing over here only, or how is it?
Yeah, what exactly you want to do?
So, specific to a particular department or say some
Here
users.
only. Here only. Where department equals to this, where this equal to that. So all those logics can be written here, right? Where first name equals to this, where last name equals to this. Whatever logic you have to write, we have to write here.
Okay.
But you have to make sure that there is some field called department there in that, right? Object.
Okay.
Got that?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So any other questions, queries? Anyone else has? We're good? Okay. So if we are good, then we are going to talk about a couple of more things today. Okay. The next thing that I'm going to talk about is a site. So we have now seen how do we use Apex. I will come back to Apex. There are a few more ways of using Apex, but I'm not going to talk about Apex anymore in today's session. I'm going to talk about a site. We will again come back to Apex and we'll talk a little more about Apex after maybe tomorrow or day after tomorrow. Okay. So before that, I will get into another thing today, which is called a site. The site. Okay. What is a site? Site is basically a public site. So usually what is happening now? Anyone who wants to see the data, that person should have a login ID password of Salesforce. Like you have created your own login ID password, now you can log in into Salesforce and you can see the data, right? What if you want everyone to see the data without even a login ID and password? So in that case, what do you do? If you want everyone to have access to your data, now you would ask me, why would I want everyone to see my data? For example, we have designed some app here. Let's say some, let's say you are running a recruiting company, okay. Now this recruiting company has an object called job. Job is the object where all the jobs are listed. Now you want everyone to be able to see the jobs. In that case, what will we do? We'll have to make it public. Okay. So there's a very simple approach. You create a Visual Force page and put it on public site. Create a Visual Force page, display the data that you want to display, and put it on a public site. Now, a public site is basically available through a URL. Anyone who has a URL can see that. The way we have our websites and all that stuff. So anyone who has my website domain can see my website, or anyone who has my web page link can see that. Alright. But to do this, I need one thing. Visual Force page we all can create. We have learned how to create it. But there is another thing. You need to have a web address, right? Where do you get this web address? So Salesforce.com provides you a web address also. So they provide you a subdomain. Okay, they will allow you to have your own subdomain registered. Okay, and you can host your Visual Force page on that subdomain. So Visual Force page can be created. That is not a problem. The question that we are thinking about is where do we put that? What address? It has to have a valid address, right? So that people can click on that address or type that address and reach that Visual Force page. So that web address will be supplied by Salesforce. So Salesforce by default gives you that web address. How does it work? Let me show it to you. It's very easy. I think I already have some Visual Force pages, so I'll use any one of those. But before you go to your Visual Force page, you just have to go to Setup, then Develop, and then Sites. Okay. So you have to go to Setup, Develop, Sites. Click on this. And then you have to register a subdomain. Let's say the subdomain that I'm gonna register is Suresh Bare. So whatever your company's name or whatever you want, okay. So this will become your complete domain. http:// this Suresh Bare. Okay. So usually when you are not using a developer edition, it is like this. Your company name.force.com. Your domain becomes this. Okay. But now because it's a developer edition, it's developer edition.this.force.com. It's a little longer, but that's fine. So it's going to be Suresh Bare. You have to check availability for this. Yeah, it's available. So just say yes. Sometimes it might not be available, then you just change the name and try to find what is available. The way we set up our Gmail account and all, same thing. So now this domain is going to get registered for you. They're going to register this domain for you. This is more of a subdomain. It's called a subdomain. Okay. So the subdomain is going to get registered for you. You just need to click on register my force.com subdomain. Now your web page will be available on this link. This is a web address and it's registering it for you. Whatever Visual Force page you want to host, you have to host it on this address. That's it. So once you have registered it, the only thing that you have to do is you have to bring in the Visual Force page that you want to display there. Now click on New. Let's just click on New. and we'll create our page for the site. So far what we have done, we have just created the address, web address. Now create the site for that. So site name you can give anything, call it site1. Okay, and complete address. So this is the website address. Now complete address will be slash whatever page name. So you can put anything here, ABCD, whatever you want. Okay, so this will be this from here till here, from HTTPS till the ABCD. This is going to be the complete site address. Okay, and then you have to select a Visualforce page as the active site home page. So what will be the home page for the active site? Pick it. Make it let's say Visualforce 10 V10. Okay, so whatever Visualforce page you have created, you can pick any Visualforce page as the active site home page. That's it, nothing else required. Click on save. And yes, I think you also have to make it active. As of now it's not active, so you can either click here or you could have checked this one. So you can activate the site. Now the site is active. Got it? So the site is active. Here is the URL, here is the address for the site. Now I can share it with anyone and they can see the details. Got it? So there's only one small thing which needs to be done here. There's a small thing which is required. Before you can put this thing, or you can make it public, you just have to go and do the public access settings for this. Public access settings means you have to define which all objects or data should be visible to the public. So let me see which object data I am trying to display in V10. Okay, opportunities is what I am displaying here. Okay, so you have to go to public access settings and make opportunities visible. At least read access needs to be given on opportunities, otherwise that will not be visible. So in public access settings, if you come, you will see that it's more like a profile only. As of now there is no permission, so there is a permission for public who will see this link. Okay, so as of now there is no permission for any object. I want them to see opportunities, so I have to give this permission here. Okay, view right at least needs to be given on opportunity, because that is what I'm trying to display. So in your case, if you are talking about jobs, you should have given job view permission on jobs. So your site is ready. Now I'll give you the link. You guys can click on that link and see if you are able to see the data there or not. So it's under develop, sites, okay, so I've given you the link. Now just open this link and let me know if you can see that Visualforce page data or not. So ideally, you are not logged in as Suresh Bare, but you can view it because public can view it. Is it opening? Everyone can see that Visualforce page? Yeah. So now what we have done, we have made this page public. So the person who is viewing it does not need to have login ID password of salesforce.com. Anyone who has this link can go ahead and view this page. Got it? Just 1 minute. Okay. So tell me if you have any questions here on the site thing. So we have understood, right? So there are a few steps that you'll have to do before you can start using site. First thing, you have to register the domain, right? So this is how a normal website concept also works. You have to design the website and you have to buy a hosting of the domain or something like that, right? So you have to purchase a web address and all that, right? So that is how it is. So here you are not required to purchase hosting and all that stuff. Salesforce will create a subdomain for you. So you just go and register the subdomain. That's number one. Create a VF page and then create a site on your domain. Create a site on your domain, all right, and then on that site call VF page as active home page of the site. Okay. So for a subdomain, usually on an enterprise edition, you can create up to 25 pages. 25 pages. Okay. But developer edition allows us only 1 page. So I just included one now. So this way we could have used 25 on an enterprise edition. Alright. But the problem with developer edition is it allows us only 1. That's fine, but we are still able to do it and check how it works. Right? Yeah, so this is how a site thing works. Okay.
So, Jeet, if we create one site for the particular purpose as a developer, so we need to delete it and recreate the web page. Am I right?
For developer edition, they have just given you one thing. So you have to delete and create the other one. That is how it is. Okay.
Okay.
But enterprise edition, if you have, you can create up to 25 pages. Right. Okay. So that's about site. So I think that is what we are going to discuss today. So I'll not start anything new today. Tomorrow, once we meet, we are